Hi there and welcome to another computer application tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to build on the knowledge that we got from the first tutorial, which was the introduction to Hypertext markup language. In this particular one we're going to be looking at basic markup tags. I hope you enjoy. As the previous one, we are going to start with a presentation just to look at 5 points. First one being opening and closing tags, then self-closing tags, structural tags, formatting tags, and lastly comments. Alright, so opening and closing tags, there is a slight difference between the two so we can tell them apart. The first one, we've got the angled bracket that starts the tag off with the name, and then the other angled bracket to close it off, and that is an opening tag. Then the closing tag is very much similar to the opening tag. The only difference is that forward slash that I put in red, just for it to stand out. That is how you indicate a closing tag. Alright, and between these two tags, because they are HTML tags, everything between these tags is interpreted by the browser as HTML code. If these tags were, for example, the body tags, everything that were between the two tags would be interpreted as the body of the page. Alright, looking at self-closing tags, these are tags that don't have any content inside of them, so they automatically close themselves. So this is an example of the tag. We've got HR with the angled bracket in the front. That is the opening part of the tag. And then we have the closing part, which is the forward slash and then the angled bracket. Now, we do not have to put that forward slash into HTML code because the browser will interpret that as a horizontal rule and automatically closes it, and that's it, it will move on. But there are some markup languages that do require that forward slash at the end to close the bracket off or the tag off, and so I feel it's a good idea just to get into the habit of closing it. Alright, so structural tags, we've already mentioned 4 of them in the previous video. There was the HTML, the head, the title, and then the body with their partners, the closing tags. And then another 2 that I want to look at is the P, which is for paragraph, and the opening and closing tag of the paragraph indicates the start and the end of a paragraph. If you've got 3 or 4 paragraphs in your page, then you're going to have 3 or 4 pairs of these opening and closing paragraph tags. The one at the beginning to indicate the start of the paragraph, then the one at the end to indicate the end of that particular paragraph. Then what we've got is a self-closing BR, which stands for break, and this adds a line break without starting a new paragraph. So for those of you that know Word, and you're familiar with the shift enter, what that does is it takes the sentence that you want to push onto a new line, and it creates it, or at least it places it on a new line without it actually starting a new paragraph. So the sentence will remain part of the paragraph but just start on a new line. This break does exactly the same thing. Alright, now we're going to be looking at some formatting tags. The first few we're going to be looking at are the heading tags. Now I just put H1 as an example, but it does go all the way to H6. So this creates headings. There are 6 levels, H1 being the biggest and H6 the smallest. You just need to make sure that if you are using an H1 opening tag, you got to use an H1 closing tag. An H3 opening tag, it will be an H3 closing tag. Right, moving on, we've got the B tag, which is the bold tag, and this indicates the start and end of the bold text. We have the I tag, and it indicates the start and end of italics, and then the U will indicate the start and end of underlined text. Now the last one we want to look at here is a self-closing tag, and it is the horizontal rule, and this tag inserts a horizontal line across the page. Alright, lastly we're going to be looking at comments. Now if you look at this tag, I've put it in green with white writing. It says comment goes here inside the tag. So if you wanted to write a comment, you'd have to start with the angled bracket, then put your exclamation mark, 2 minus signs or hyphens, and then you type out your comment, and then when you were done with your comment you would need to close it with another 2 minus signs and then the angled bracket. Now the comments don't affect your web page at all. You don't see a comment on the browser, you only see it in your code, and you might be wondering why. So you can use comments to make notes on your code. You could want someone else to know why you wrote a specific code, or to determine, remind yourself of something and why you did it. If you're writing computer application technology, the subject, when it comes to your HTML, what the examiners do is they will put the question numbers within the code, so it makes it easier for you to find the space where you need to answer that particular question. Alright, so that is for the PowerPoint presentation. Let us minimize this. Alright, so we're going to go into this code. I just want to quickly explain something. If I have this all closed, and we were going to start for the first time working on this, we already created a web page on the first tutorial that we did. I'll just need to double click on it in order to open up the browser. But now if I want to get to the code so that I can actually work on the code, then what I need to do, let me just get closer here, is right click and then go to edit with Notepad++. Now you will only see this if you have followed the instructions from the first tutorial and installed Notepad++. If you haven't, you're not going to see this. If you're using another editor, you're probably going to need to say edit with whatever you've decided to use. Right, but there we go. Click on it. Let me return to my normal view, and there we go. There's the code. I did add some extra lines of content here to the page so that we can work with this. Alright, first of all I want you to notice is that I've got some green writing on the screen, and you can see that that green writing is in between my comment tags. So there's the opening part of my comment tag, then my comment, change hello world to a level 1 heading, and then it's closed. Now if you notice, when we were looking at the browser, you can't actually see that here because that would come between these two words and there's nothing there. So comments do not show up on the browser, they are purely just for your code. Alright, so let's go and now work with the code and do what it wants us to do here. So if we look at the comment, it says that it wants the hello world to be made a heading level 1. So I'm going to open up my h1 tag, and then at the end where it says world, I'm going to close h1. Alright, so that there is going to create a heading 1 with hello world. So I'm going to just Control S to save it and go to my browser. Now nothing happens. Remember what I said in the first video. When you change the code and the browser is already open, it means it's already read through the code. So in order for you to update or reload the page, you have to refresh it so that the browser knows to refresh the page. So I'm going to push the F5 to do that, and there we go. The page is refreshed and you can see the hello world is now in quite a big font, and it's been made bold. Okay, one thing to notice though, as you can see here, it says this is a heading 2, this is a heading 3, this is a heading 4. It's all bunched together, where in my code I've pushed enter and created a new line for each of those sentences. Now the browser doesn't recognize the enter when I push it. It doesn't see it. It considers it white space, and it doesn't actually interpret white space. It leaves it blank. Even if I were to come to the 2 here and add more spaces between heading and 2, the one space it will interpret as one space, everything else it sees as white space, and it's not actually going to make any difference within my page. So what I need to do is realize that if I want this on new lines, I have to create them. If I want paragraphs, I have to create them. The browser will not see any of the spaces and enters that I put in my code. Right, let's carry on. So over here it says this is heading 2, so I'm going to put H2 as my opening tag, and if I use H2 to open it, I need to close it with H2. Alright, so then this one here says this is heading 3, so I'm going to do a H3 tag and then close H3, and then this last one, this is heading 4, so it is H4, and I make sure I close my H4. Please make sure that whenever you use these headings and the levels, if your opening tag is an H1, make sure that you close it with an H1. Alright, so I'm just going to do a Control S to save, and then go to my browser, and then over here refresh. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my headings all laid out quite nicely on their own line, and as you see, as the number goes from biggest to smallest, so the size of the heading will go from biggest to smallest as well. Alright, this is my first paragraph, so I'm going to create a paragraph tag in the front here, and only the first sentence is part of that first paragraph, so at the end of the sentence I'm going to close the paragraph, and then this next paragraph starts here, so I will open my tag. If I wanted to, I could push enter. Remember, that doesn't affect it at all. And then I'm going to go all the way to the end where it says underlined, and I'm going to close that paragraph there. Okay, Control S to save, and then I'm going to go to my browser and refresh. And I'm just going to open this up a little bit just so you can see the what's happening further down. Alright, so there we go. We've got Hello World. This is heading 2, a little smaller, heading 3, and then we've got at the bottom our 2 paragraphs that we created. So that was the structure. Now we're going to be looking at some formatting, and we're going to change some words to bold, some to italic, and then some to underlined. Okay, so over here in the paragraph it says here something bold, so let's make this word bold, and all we're going to do is create a bold tag right in the front, and at the end of bold I'm going to close it. If I want to include the comma, I need to make sure that the comma falls between the opening and the closing tag. If I wanted the whole sentence now to the end to be bold, I'd close it over here. Alright, so just pick where you want the bold to end. In this case, I want it to end after the word bold. Right, then over here it says something italic, so it's quite easy. What we do is we open up the I for italic tag, and then we are going to close it. I also just want the word italic to be italic. And then the last thing I want to do here is the word underlined. I want to underline, so I put a U, and then at the end of the word, I don't want to include this full stop, so I make sure I do not put it within them. There we go. Control and S to save, and then just go to my browser and refresh. Alright, so you can see now on the bottom of the browser here, we've got the word bold in bold, we've got the word italic in italic, and we've got the word underlined. So it is quite easy to use this markup. All you need to realize is that if you want something to look a specific way, you have to place it in the code. Pushing enter, pushing space is not going to affect it. That's just what we call white space, and the browser doesn't interpret it as space on the actual page. Okay, so what we're going to do now, the last 2 tags, I want to create a line. underneath the word hello world, and just push enter here. Alright, so remember, enter doesn't affect it. I just do that because it's easier for us to read. So creating a space or a line, like pushing enter in a Word document, I need to actually put a break. And you'll see now that once I'm done typing it, if I click on this tag, you'll see it doesn't go purple like these other ones do. Now it's a self-closing tag, and Notepad++ is waiting for you to put the / at the end so it becomes a whole. It's got an opening part of the tag and a closing part of the tag, and there we go. So that is how you create a space when you push enter in Word in a browser. I'm going to do it twice, BR, just to make it visible so when you see it move you'll notice it. So I've saved it. I'm going to go to my browser now. Now please pay attention between the space over here. I'm going to refresh it, and there, oh, wrong space. Okay, so there you see the space is added where I put the code in between hello world and this is heading 2. So now what we're going to do in between heading 4 and the first paragraph, I'm going to create a horizontal rule. So that is just a line that's going to be drawn from the left to the right of the page, and that is very basic. We just put an HR with a / because it is a self-closing tag. There's no content that needs to go in there, so that is how we close it. I'm going to do a Control S to save. And then the last thing, let's go back to our browser, refresh it, and there the line has appeared on our page. Alright, so that is the end of this tutorial. Please stay tuned for new upcoming tutorials. We'll still keep working on hypertext markup language. There's still a lot to go through, but stay tuned. If you like the video and want to subscribe, please smash that subscribe button, click on the notification, and hit the likes. Till next time, bye for now.